Well, is ISIS still a threat to America? A decade ago, you couldn't go a single day without hearing the name of the terror group. But we started to hear less about it as the U.S. and our allies seem to be making headway in the global war against terrorism. But now we are starting to hear the name ISIS-K resurfacing. And just today, Israel said it foiled a plot by ISIS-K to carry out attacks on a police station and stadium in East Jerusalem. You might also remember this massive attack in Russia last month at a concert hall in Moscow, which ISIS-K claimed responsibility for, killing 143 civilians. And one of ISIS-K's most notable attacks came as the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021. The terrorist group carried out that horrific suicide bombing at the Kabul airport, which killed 13 of our U.S. troops. And 170 civilians were also killed that day. But one of the biggest questions right now is, do they pose a threat to us here in the homeland? Retired four-star General Frank McKenzie warned that the group is a clear and present danger to the U.S. ever since we left Afghanistan.
So ISIS-K in particular, but ISIS in general, has a strong desire to attack our homeland. We should believe them when they say that. They're going to try to do it. So I think we should expect further attempts of this nature against the United States as well as our partners and other nations abroad. I think this is inevitable.
Well, joining me now is Mike Baker. He is a former CIA operative and the host of the President's Brief podcast. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Sure, of course. Thank you.
Okay, so in 2019, you'll remember this, President Trump declared that ISIS was 100% defeated. We'll note his national security advisor at the time, John Bolton, admitted the ISIS threat would remain. But how did we get back to this point where we are concerned about this specific group again?
Terrorism is not a zero-sum game. So anytime you ever hear anybody say we've completely destroyed a terrorist organization, you got to step back and think, okay, I don't really believe that's the truth. With ISIS-K, the answer to your question about how do we get to this point, how are they resurging? The short answer is that when we withdrew from Afghanistan, when we pulled out entirely, right, that is the moment when ISIS-K, which is an affiliate of the parent company, if you want to call it that, ISIS, when they started having more opportunity. And look, the Taliban moved from an organization to essentially a government. They're now governing Afghanistan. And since that's happened, ISIS-K has been targeting the Taliban, which I think, again, people are going to go, why are they attacking the Taliban? Well, they don't believe they're strict enough. ISIS-K's objective in life is to create a caliphate, much like they were doing in Iraq and Syria back in the day when they were making headlines every day. So they're looking to do the same thing, to take the place of the Taliban. They've been attacking them for some time. And they also have been attacking and targeting countries that they feel are essentially developing relations with the Taliban. That would include Russia, which explains the Moscow attack. Iran, they were responsible for the bombing at the Qasem Soleimani Memorial Service that killed over 100 people. They've attacked Chinese diplomats in Afghanistan. And yes, General McKenzie's absolutely correct. They pose a significant threat to the U.S. and our allies.
Why are they so interested in the U.S.? What is it about us that they want to come to our homeland and attack us?
Well, part of it is, I hate to say it this way, but it makes a splash, right? Any terrorist organization, whether we're talking about ISIS-K, we're talking about Al-Shabaab, we're talking about Al-Qaeda, and ISIS-K really came out of Al-Qaeda years and years ago, back in the late 1990s. But it's because of the publicity that it garners, right? Their ability to attack in Moscow, far from where their home base is. They're essentially operating in eastern Afghanistan along the Pakistan border. That's sort of their stronghold, although they're very keen and they've been working to expand that reach, not only in Afghanistan, but to target other countries. And that in part is an effort to recruit more followers, more jihadists. It's an effort to say we're here, we're a threat. It's the same reason Al-Qaeda was so motivated to attack the U.S. all the way back in 9/11, which for a lot of people now seems like ancient history.
You know, it was projected in 2021 that they only had 2,200 soldiers. So how are they able to build up so rapidly? Because the leader of CENTCOM came out just last month and said they are building up rapidly. They could have capabilities within 6 months to potentially be in the U.S.
Well, look, yeah, and that's absolutely right. And you ask a very important question. Look, the inability of the Taliban to do what they said, they made assurances for what that's worth. Back when we were planning the withdrawal, I hate to use the word planning because it didn't seem particularly well planned. But at that moment in time, the Taliban was saying, we will combat terrorism. Well, they haven't been able to control their own country, large portions of it. And that allows, again, ISIS-K, Al-Qaeda as well, to have areas where they can operate, where they can train, where they can sit and plot and plan and think about how to do things, where they can recruit, right? And unfortunately, to your point, there seems to be in the world of terrorism, and I've been doing this for a long time, a bottomless potential well of recruits, disaffected, angry individuals who they're able to turn towards jihad. And it's a very, and going back to my original statement, it's never going to be a zero-sum game. We're always going to have to worry about this, even though, understandably, Americans and our allies were all fatigued from the war on terror. The bottom line is the terrorists, they're not tired.
Should Americans be worried when they travel abroad?
They should be smart when they travel abroad, right? You can't just sit in a foxhole and not live your life. You got to get out. So you have to be smart. You have to be informed. You have to be operationally aware of your environment. So know where you're going to. And whether that's because there may be a high crime rate, in whatever city in America you're going to, or whether you're going overseas. Understand where you're going and take the time to know what you should do, how you should act. Go to state.gov and get some travel advisory information. Do some smart things. It doesn't take much, but you need to be informed.